So in today's video, we're going to be talking about buying La Liga special cards in positions where there's a lack of cheap La Liga team of the season. So just before the video does start, a quick little ad on a trading service I offer over on Twitch. For the cheapest premium trading service for just £4, €4, or free with Amazon Prime. You'll get yourself daily trading and investing guides covering both Xbox and PlayStation with an array of different techniques depending on your budget. I've been trading for over 10 years, making over 100 million on multiple titles, and recently making over 10 million in the first month for the last 3 years. So in today's video, we're going to be covering buying La Liga specials in positions with a lack of team of the seasons. We're talking about why this trend works. We're going to be talking about how it's worked for the Prem and the Bundesliga. We're going to talk about what players perform the best for the Prem and the Bundesliga, and then hopefully where there'll be empty spaces in the La Liga of cheap team of the seasons, and as a result, we'll be showing you guys some investments to go and pick up. So the first question is, why does this trend work? Why do old special cards in the league that we've got the current team of the season in rise on a Friday when when the team of the season comes out? Well, that's mainly because there's two sets of objectives, normally requiring players from the league of the current team of the season. For example, we've got the FLAIR SBC right here, which is Bundesliga year in review, and this requires loads of different players from loads of different clubs. I think Union Berlin are needed, Dortmund are needed, Bayern Munich are needed. So you've got people building Bundesliga teams for that. And then we've also got the guaranteed Bundesliga team of the season, which you can see just down below. And this again requires you to go and win 10 games with specifically a Bundesliga team. So that is where the demand comes for these special cards. But the demand is enhanced even more by what positions there's a lack of cheap team of the seasons. For example, if we look at this prediction right here, we can see that the only left wing that they've got in prediction is the likes of Vinicius Jr. Well, as a result of Vinicius Jr. being the only left wing, are people going to go and buy Vinicius Jr.'s team of the season for 6, 7, 8 million coins? No. The reality is what they will end up doing is they'll go, well, do you know what, I can't afford Vinicius Jr. I don't think there's any overly cheap players there that can play left wing. What I'll do is I'll go and buy some old special La Liga left wing. So then what they'll do is they'll go to the La Liga special left wings. Now the average person's budget to go and buy someone for this team is normally anywhere from about 10k to 100k. Sometimes the 200k players can do well, but normally it's the cheap players. This is because way more people have only a few 100k than have a few million. So when it comes to these, you're now looking, okay, what players are a left wing who's about 10 to 100k? And ideally, the less options you have, the better it's going to do. Because obviously, if, let's say there's 1,000 people going to go and buy La Liga left wing, if there's 10 options, that means each person, in theory, buys 100 of each card. But if there's only 3 options, then every single person, each card is going to get bought 333 times. Because you've got less supply for the demand. So if we come and look at left wings right here, let's have a little look what we've got. We've got Forlan. I mean, some would argue he's not the best left wing. I'm not going to count Pedri in this with the left wings. We got Ferran Torres, that's 2, Carrasco 3, and Dai 4. I wouldn't say João Quinn's overly amazing. I wouldn't say Acuna's too demanded. You've got the likes of Clivert there with 5. Anything else? Corona is okay. Again, people aren't going to be playing Fran Garcia really. There's nothing else really there. So now what we've got is we've got loads and loads of people buying one of 5 La Liga special cards that, as a result, should rise because there's going to be way more people buying these cards. Now, something you have to be quite aware of is because of how well it worked last week, some people have copped onto some cards to the point where it's like these cards are now potentially way more inflated than they would be if they were demanded. For example, the likes of DeMarcus. DeMarcus has already risen. Again, there's no reason for people to be buying them other than pre-investing. From 25k to 37k. That means we've seen a rise of 40% of DeMarcus already, and he's not even demanded yet. So you can see right here, this is kind of like the sort of stuff we want to avoid because people are aware of this trend I'm teaching, and as a result, they're already inflated. Now, one thing I'd like to bring up is that this trend didn't really work that well with the Premier League. Now, there's theories that this trend didn't work that well with the Premier League because, well, the average person has a high chance of having a full Prem team than they do having a full Serie A team, or a full La Liga team. And as a result of that, there was less people buying in. Some players did work for the likes of Saka, for example, who we can see before the Friday was 47, and then after went up to 59. But he was one of very few players who worked. Whereas if we go into the Bundesliga, there were so many more players, so many, that rose really well. For example, like Sal, who literally went from, what are we looking at here, 15k to 30k. We can go look at a left winger of Timo Werner's card. And Timo Werner's card, although it didn't perform that well, still yet another card that performed well. 93k already up here to 110k. Another card that I know did well. I know the right backs did well because there was a lack of players in that position. And we can see that Trimmel went from 13, 14k, all the way up here to 22 and 23k. So right here, hopefully we've demonstrated the trend of, well, basically on a Friday, players go up because they're used for an objective. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the La Liga team this season prediction, and we're going to have a little look at every position that should, in theory, have a lack of cheap cards. So this is our La Liga team of the season. Now the first thing I would never do is buy goalkeepers, especially in this case, because at least in this person's prediction, which again I do rate highly, they've got Ledesma and Ter Stegen. You'd be getting goalkeepers like this tomorrow, so no goalkeepers. Now we look at left backs, at least in this person's prediction, and we've got Reynaldo, we've got Balde. Can any of these? No, none of these guys would have old positions at left back. And Reynaldo and Balde would be anticipated to be quite low cheap cards, a little bit like Trippier and Reece James, where we didn't see the right backs rise last time during the Prem because again there were two cheap ones, and I think that'll be the case there with Reynaldo and Balde. We then move to centre back, which is an interesting one because we saw centre backs perform quite well with the Prem because there was only one cheap Prem centre back. So let's have a little look at the centre backs. You've got Reynaldo that will have centre back utility. But then other than that, we've got Array who actually won't end up getting a card because he's got an SBC. You've got Eder Militao who would be very expensive, and Conde who will be very expensive. So despite there being one cheap centre-back, unless there is an SBC or an objective that is a centre-back, more likely than not, the cheaper centre-backs will do quite well. So that is our first position to look at. We're not going to go goalkeepers, we're not going to go left-backs, but we are going to go centre-backs. We then do the same thing with right-backs, and the only right-back would probably be the likes of Conde. So unless Balde had right-back utility, but from my limited knowledge about Balde, I don't believe he does. So that's already centre-back and right-back. We already know that people are kind of pre-invested in the right-back, so we need to be a little bit careful there. We'll then look at centre-mids, and I'll be honest with you, centre-mids we've got 1, 2, what else do we have? 3, 4, 5. Now, these two will probably be cheap enough for the super cheap stuff to not really do that well, and then the likes of these three will be relatively expensive between Valverde, Pedri and De Jong, Pedri being a little bit cheaper than the others. So probably would hold off buying CDM, centre-mids and maybe cams, just because there's so many that fit that position. Now let's go on to left mid, left wings. Literally just Vinicius Jr. I don't believe any of these other guys would have left wing utility, at least be demanded with left wing utility, so nothing there. So left wings and centre backs are the two positions. Next one, let's look at right mid and right wings. Again, I don't think there'll be too much. Griezmann will have right wing utility, but he won't be the cheapest card in the world. So we've got centre backs, left wings, right wings. We now move to strikers, and strikers there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'd say you've got your low tier here, you've probably got your mid tier here with Lewandowski and maybe Griezmann, and then you've got maybe your top tier with Griezmann and Benzema. So I'd hold it for strikers, which means now we've analysed the whole team, we've got centre backs, right backs, left wings and right wings. So let's go and give you guys a few players that aren't inflated from those positions. I'm going to give you guys one example from each position. Now a lot of the right backs are already inflated. Carvajal's already up 10k, DeMarcos already up 10k, Vazquez already up 10k, Conde I believe is already up 10k. So what you got to do is you got to find the players that may be less demanded, but still can rise. So the players that I'd recommend is the likes of Sabali. Sabali is obviously really only has La Liga utility, and he's also got that inform utility. So if we go look what he was on Friday before all the hype, he was up there at about 13.5k. He actually went up after 6 PM, but that was probably due to him being an 86 rated in form and us having the relatively well demanded, I can't remember who came on Friday, but I do remember they were relatively well demanded. Oh, Royce SBC, that was it. So he did go up there to the likes of 15k, but since on the Saturday and the Sunday we have seen him go down to 14, we've seen him even go down here to 13.5. So I think the likes of Sabali for 13.5 and 14 is good because, hey, do you know what? If he flops for being a well-demanded La Liga right-back, at least he's got that 86 in form utility, and 86 in forms at a minimum are currently going for, if I can show you right here, this shows me the cheapest rating per. 86 rating forms are going for a minimum of 13, 14k. So if you're winning him for 13, 14k, he literally can't get any lower unless 86 in forms go down, which isn't anticipated because they are not of infinite supply because you can't pack them anymore. So the first player I've gone for you guys is the likes of Informs of Bally. Now centre-backs I don't think will do as well because just in front of you there's like a page of players who are only 20k and they're all kind of the exact same cards, and as a result, like I was saying earlier, instead of people buying one of 10 or buying one of 3, they're now buying one of 10 different cards, and as a result the cards are anticipated to rise a lot less than if there were less players in this position. The player I would like is the likes of second inform Hermoso. Before Friday he was going for about 17k, and if we look at Saturday and yesterday, we can see he went down there to 17k, went up to 18k, which I wouldn't be too fussed about, and today he's been a little bit more inflated today, but we should be able to anticipate, because again they were inflated yesterday and still went down. So about 18k for Hermoso, you're paying maximum 1k more than he was on Friday. Again, he's got inform utility, but he's not very good value for money inform-wise. But if he does go back down to 18k, which again he should do on a daily fluctuation, that's a nice little investment. But centre-back's not really your priority. So then move to left wing, and again, there's a fair few guys who can play left wing, right wing, striker. One of the highest rated you can go with is the likes of Carrasco. Carrasco only has left mid utility, which means if there's maybe a cheap striker, then you've got nothing to worry about, because a fair few of these left wingers, if I can go and show you, do have strike utility, so there is a chance maybe Ndai will go down if there's cheap strikers, although he's got left wing and right wing, which is quite nice. But yeah, we got Carrasco nonetheless. If we go and show you Friday, before there was any sort of inflation, Carrasco was going for the likes of 20 to 21. If we show you yesterday and Saturday, he does fluctuate down here to 22, goes there to 23. Show you what he was on Saturday, 21k all day. So we should go back down to about 21, 22 come of this evening. But that is the left wing investment. We then get to the right wing investment, and that is the likes of Rafinha. Sorry, Rafinha was about 30 to 20, about 28, 29k averaging on the Friday. Now the Saturday he was holding 28, 29. Yesterday he was down at 29 for a lot of days. Today he does seem to be up, so again we are gambling on this card going back down later into the evening or maybe tomorrow. But we're looking to pick him up for about 28, 29k. Which is pretty decent. Whereas if we went and looked at someone like Dembele, yes, Dembele is more demanded, but Dembele's already up like 30-40% already, and because he's up 30-40%, it's not really looking good. In fact, he's nearly doubled in price. He's gone from here 20k and currently sitting at 36. And I don't believe he does fluctuate. No, Saturday was 25, yesterday sitting at 30. You're not going to get him anywhere near the price. Whereas someone like Rafinha was 28, 29 before there was any hype, and he does fluctuate down to 28, 29, and therefore giving you an investment in the right wing. So these investments, it depends what gets leaked on Friday. If on Friday it's leaked that there's going to probably be some cheap left wings, some cheap right wings, some cheap centre backs, some cheap right backs, probably sell your cards in advance. Likewise, if there's some SBCs or objective leaked, you know, you're fighting with fire. As soon as they drop that SBC and objective, the position of that SBC and objective player will drop off the special cards. So do be wary of leaks, because that depends how they'll do. If these cards are very, very inflated going into Friday, let's say for some example, Rafinha is up to about 40 to 42, you've bought him for 29, just sell him in the pre-hype. Because of how well cards did last week, you are going to see a higher chance of over-investment, which is why we're not picking cards inflated, because then, you know, we potentially are going to fall into the trap of stuff being over-invested. So if they're up nicely, let's say they're up about 20-30% from what you buy them for today, sell them before 6 PM Friday. If not, you're going to go and sell them on Sunday, because that seems when the Bundesliga players did peak. But that is going to be that for today's video. If you haven't already checked out, we did have a investment video talking about buying the gold versions of players going out of packs earlier today. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.